Thank you. Thanks very much. And it's a pleasure to be here. I know I opened this presentation with a kind of a philosophical look back on, I think digital transformation, and I know it's an overused term, but, if you think about the jobs of the future, within Microsoft, the chief learning officer didn't exist 2 years ago. So it's a salient moment for me when I look back and think about how this company has invested in skilling and how, our CEO, Satya Nadella, has laid down a culture for this organization to empower every person on the planet with the tools and the skills that they need to do great things. And I think that at the essence and at the core of any organization is what ultimately is going to drive that learning culture. No matter where you are in life, what industry, your home, your personal life, a hobby, a sport, if you want to change and grow, then you're going to have to learn, right? You're going to have to look at how you need to change that capability. And often that's the first step in actually acknowledging that you need to do something differently. And I think leaders today are thinking about their organizations and what they do for their customer base, and that the value that they bring to their organization, through their organization to their customers, is so super important. And value generation is the essence and is the core of what every organization wants to bring. And I love to share, and we move to the next slide now, where we think about the purpose of value generation as it applies to digital transformation. If you get right down to it, regardless of industry, organization, we're all trying to do that one thing, to bring that value. And perhaps I think the greatest mistake we see time and time again is that organizations anchor on the pivot of technology and technology on its own. And that's not the answer. There's this kind of flavor that technology is what you need to go and buy some technology. Well, actually, you need to look at it across 4 pillars in your organization. You need to look at, the successful organizations that have gone through, aggressive digital transformations. And, and I'm sure, other speakers today have referenced this. The pandemic has forced us to change the way we work, the way we live, the way we do our daily activities. And it's had that impact. It has had a massive impact in how we formulate our thoughts. But going back to those 4 key pillars, and if you'll bear with me and allow me to share with you what that journey should look like from a leadership perspective and an organizational change. So if we think about, the first pillar that we have as part of a cultural cycle or a cultural change, it's to look at your vision and your strategy. I referenced earlier, how in Microsoft we have such a strong value proposition, right? And vision is the most important. It's what directs successful organizations towards that single point, that North Star. What do you want to do, and how do you articulate that in your strategy, right? It tells everyone in the organization, and it tells everyone outside of the organization what the ambitions look like, what you want to do, and making sure that you've got that vision and that strategy in place is really important for your employees, particularly, to anchor and pivot what they feel they can impact. Then we think about, then we think about culture. So what's your culture like? We see that organizations are best able to go through a transformation when people inside an organization are unified and they're working together. Now, that role modeling needs to start at the top. So whether it's your culture of learning, right, your management team need to be demonstrating that they're learning from one another, and that they're applying that learning into their day-to-day activities. No organizations that continually invite change and they accept feedback are organizations that often will demonstrate a really strong culture. And if, when we think about the situation in Microsoft, we've brought our employees through this massive cultural change when it comes to skilling. Skilling is part of your core role. Your demonstrable capability on how you engage in learning, how you share with others what you've learned, is a pillar and a foundation of our success within the company. Unlocking unique potential is one that I think, every company has its own kind of unique selling point or what they think differentiates, them from the competition. But unique potential is the most likely thing to drive forward, an organization. And every organization has that. Things that can be leveraged inside to differentiate. So from a partner ecosystem perspective, if we think about our delivery partners, a perfect USP for a delivery partner is to say that they have more certified professionals in a particular workload than their competition. So straight away, spending time, educating a workforce that ultimately is out there with your customers, helping them to be successful, is a key differentiator. And skills is an amazing way to bring that together. That's where the magic is for our organization and for our partner organizations. And then lastly, it's the one that's, I guess, closest to my heart as kind of Chief Learning Officer, and it would be remiss of me if I said it wasn't, is, of course, capabilities. Capability, is something that, we need to assess, and we need to always have a pulse on what the capability is inside of an organization. But human capabilities, do we have the right people with the right skills? Straight away, you've got to make that assessment. Do the skills that we have today, and will the skills that we have today get us to where we want to go in the future? What's the gap? In Microsoft internally, we've landed over 7,000 certifications with our employees in Western Europe alone. So 7,000 certifications. Just let that sit for a minute. So we have people in our organization, some who are, maybe not a little bit technical, but not hugely technical, had to go and do a technical certifications. Our sellers had to kind of develop their own skill set so that they could then go out and have much more insightful conversations with our customers. And we're starting to see the benefit of that. And we want to bring that to our customers and our partners, and through the Enterprise Skills Initiative. And I know Stephanie from my team will talk to you about that later, but the essence of what we want to do and want to bring to market with, and in partnership with our learning partners, is to help organizations develop their capabilities, develop the skill set that they need. So moving then, just for a quick recap, the essence of any digital transformation, it's a journey that's fundamentally simple. Taking away technology, it's to assess those 4 pillars. And it's always to remember that it's people and technology. It's not one or the other. One will complement the other. More and more we see in the world that we're living in today, we're giving this intelligence to our business decision makers, so to drive the business forward. So more people are shopping online, more people are meeting remotely. So suddenly we're asking people to do things that they haven't had to do before. Sellers that have had to and have relied on that face-to-face relationship with their customers now have to manage a different type of interaction with their customers. And we need to figure, what does that actually mean? But, moving to this one, compelling, constructive, and convenient. That's what learning needs to be. Those 3 things. It needs to be compelling and impactful. So you've done your capability assessment, you've had a look at it, you understand what it needs to be. It needs to be constructive. It needs to be something that is impactful for that person in their job. And it needs to be convenient. We see amazing agility with our learning partners on how you're working with customers. Gone is the day where we can put a customer in a room for 4 days to do a particular Microsoft certification. We're now looking at doing it for like 3 hours every day over 2 weeks, or 2 days and 1 week and 2 days the following week. And that level of agility is really important. But there's 5 key cornerstones for me from a leadership perspective. Build a learning and coaching culture. Understand what that learning culture looks like. Reward people for learning. Applaud their success and hold those compelling moments where they get to share what they've learned with their peers. And it doesn't have to be content. It can be something that they just did with a customer that worked really well. But be prepared to build that into your culture. We've done some work with the Harvard Neuroscience Institute, and we know that rewarding for learning is really important. And as part of a coaching culture, not necessarily rushing in with advice, but sitting back and listening and helping people to find those answers themselves. And when they do, sharing that. They're all learning moments. But one of the things that Microsoft is really focusing on is the agility of our platform. And when you look at MS Learn today, and this is what it is, this is open to everybody. Every person can access this, and you can go in and you can pick a path that you want to kind of work on. And at that point, then, if you've maybe taken this content, you might feel ready with your organization to reach out to a learning partner to say, you know what, we want to go a little bit deeper. We'd like to do some certifications with you. We want some coaching on exams, whatever that is. But this platform, if you're thinking about digital transformation, if you're thinking about your cloud journey, it's open for everyone. It's there for all. So then going back to my presentation, focusing on this, develop the workforce of the future. We know by FY22, like FY22 for us starts in July. So 2022 for everybody else is next year. We know by 2022, we won't have enough jobs on the planet to meet the demands of our digital transformation ambitions. Now, let that sink in for a minute, and then we think, well, what's Microsoft doing to kind of help and accelerate that? We've seen 27 million people laid off or furloughed because of COVID. And Microsoft have taken the initiative and said, okay, with LinkedIn Learning and, our partners, we've said, here are some of the things that we feel will make an impact. And we've developed 10 key roles as part of what we call the Global Skills Initiative. Again, the link is here. The 10 key roles focus on roles like a financial analyst, a digital marketing specialist, a cloud architect, all starting at the early kind of infancy stage of what that career journey and that career certification journey might look like. And again, those paths will lead you through to some certified content, but ultimately on a journey of education that, with your companies, you can start, and your leaders in your companies, you can start to work on a program with our learning partners. The next one then to call out is, and this one is very close to my heart because I was a sales manager. I was an operations director in a previous company. I fully understand what it means to be a manager who champions learning. And leadership and management development is something that we sometimes forget about. And, I was asked an interesting question by a business school the other day around, if you were working in a business school or university and a faculty in the business school, what would be the things that you would want your students or our students to come out with? And straight away, you're talking digital skills, right? Because if you're a HR manager, if you're a chief financial officer, if you're a chief marketing officer, there isn't one single part of your job that's not impacted by, or I can't benefit from the ability to think with a digital mindset, to think about how technology can actually help your organization. So if it's HR, it's how you're recruiting people, how you're retaining people. What's the analysis of that? How are you reaching your audiences, your staff in an environment where you can't physically see them? You can't, give them the cookie Friday or whatever it is. Those things kind of become much more deliberate rather than much more ad hoc. And one single, item that I would strongly encourage anyone here that's in a business role is to look to the AI Business School. It's a wonderful certification that you will get with Microsoft. It's something that we developed with the business school in INSEAD, and it takes you through a journey of what does and what will AI do for me in my industry. So it's free. It's free. It's available. It's self-paced. It's not a class. You can listen to it whilst out walking your dog, or you can build it into your working day, which is my preference. But it's certainly something that I would recommend any business person who's at that culture vision point, is at the moment where they're trying to pivot on the capabilities of your organization, to bring those two things together. Starting with the AI Business School is a really, really good foundational start. And then lastly, let's call it out here, self-directed learning and content creation. Self-directed learning being how we engage as individuals, and then how we look for and consume content. And then, of course, don't forget content creation, because content doesn't always have to be, code. It can be a salesperson who spent some time with a customer and actually, used a particular PowerPoint deck that really resonated with that customer, and sharing then that with their peers. That's content creation. And it's something that, it links straight back up to building a learning and coaching culture. When we can do that, you reach that holy grail. You reach that moment where your organization will accelerate through the power of its people, through the power of their employees, leveraging one another and learning from one another. So that's kind of all from me today. I hope that it has resonated with some of you. Please feel free to follow up with me. You can contact me through my details that I'm sure will be shared. And I've really enjoyed the conversation. Look forward to the questions. Thank you.